Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. I'm Bryson Carver, as always. We got an interesting one for you guys tonight. First of all, for the podcast audience, I just want to say this: the YouTube and Facebook and Twitter audience can see it. I'm wearing my Boston Red Sox hat. Now, that's not an unlikely occurrence on this show, but just want to put this out there because baseball put together a freaking season. Okay. Can we have a season? The news came out the other day that on Monday, or that I think Commissioner Manfred said that if a deal is not done by Monday, then the season will end up being shortened. Man, could you just get a deal done by Monday? Man, I want some baseball. We all want some baseball. Players, owners, compromise. I know people are like anti-compromise these days in politics and everything. Just play, man. Come on. I want some baseball. All right. I'm going to start the show with some even more reports on Aaron Rodgers that I think are really, really interesting and say even more about him in terms of his drive to win championships than I think I already knew, as well as Trey Lance. There's some reports coming out of San Francisco that aren't horribly glowing about Trey Lance in terms of whether he's available or not available, but whether he's ready to play. And so I'm going to get into those. I think it's BS. Not by the reporters, but by the 49ers. I'll get into that a little later in the show, as well as James Harden's making his debut tonight with the 76ers. And Philadelphia, while I think you guys won this trade, you are a better basketball team today than you were a few weeks ago. Like the Houston Rockets and the Brooklyn Nets can attest, your season's going to go up in smoke due to James Harden. I'll get into that later, as well as Gregg Popovich. He's not as good of a coach as people give him credit for. I'll explain later in the show. And Giannis, I just want to throw this out about Giannis and where I think he will be in the top 15 NBA players of all time if he wins a championship this season. But first, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. So we got even more new developments 24 hours after my last show. Yesterday, I talked about the Instagram post and the reports that he was going to make his decision soon. That's all we got was soon. Days, hours. Well, we know it's not hours because we're 24 hours into today, or from the start of yesterday's show into today, and we've really got nothing in as far as what his decision is going to be. But we do know this now. A report has come out by Diana Rossini, who also tweeted about Aaron Rodgers making his final decision soon, that he wants to be the highest paid player in NFL history. And not just that. Current players, which we know Patrick Mahomes makes the most money on average salary, $45 million a year. Aaron Rodgers says, hey, not only do I want to be the highest paid player in football, I want it to be by a wide margin. And by a wide margin, we're talking $50 million per year. Let me say this. The Green Bay Packers are in a very peculiar situation. And this could be the reason that they're clearing out so much cap space. You see how they've restructured the deals of guys like Aaron Jones and guys like Clark, their great defensive tackle. And some of their other offensive guys. They freed up like $14 million in cap space. Is it all just to pay Aaron? Because let me tell you this. If you give Aaron $50 million, Davante Adams is not coming back at a reduced rate. Davante Adams talked about, I want $30 million, which is like, bro, that's like quarterback money. Like, I don't know if I'd do that. There's going to be some desperate team that's going to give him that money. Maybe Chicago or somebody, or the Raiders. Green Bay, if they pay Aaron Rodgers $50 million per year on average, Davante Adams is not coming back. You realize that, right? Like, they would have to go through so many cap loopholes. It would be just about impossible. I remember when Dak signed his contract last year for $40 million, or at least $40 million on average. And the Cowboys jumped through all these cap loopholes. And I actually gave the Cowboys and the capologist and even Jerry a lot of credit. Like, good on them. Dak won and you won. I feel like it was a win-win. Dallas, you kept Dak. Dak, you got your money. And Dallas, it didn't really hurt your salary cap that bad. So credit to them. In Green Bay, I don't know how they're going to pull this off. if this is indeed true. But here's what it goes to say to me about Aaron Rodgers. First of all, you guys know when it comes to guys up for a new contract or who want a new contract, okay, if they're worthy players, if they're elites, like Aaron Donald's, the rumors have been about that if he doesn't retire and comes back to the Rams, that he's like, hey, I want the bag. And my response is, Rams, you better give him the bag. He's probably the best player in football, certainly the best defensive player in football, with no disrespect to TJ Watt. TJ Watt's amazing. Aaron Donald's just different, man. Like, people are talking about Aaron Donald possibly as the greatest defensive player of all time. Literally. Like, up there with Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White, Deion Sanders. I mean, everybody. That's how great Aaron Donald is. You give Aaron Donald the bag. Here's my perspective on Aaron Rodgers. If his final goal for whatever is left of his NFL career, if he hasn't played his last game, and that's TBD, but let's just say Aaron Rodgers is coming back for 2022. If his final goal is to win a Super Bowl, this isn't exactly the route to do it. Because, first of all, they've cleared so much cap space. Maybe they do bring free agents in. Maybe Davante Adams says, you better pay me, but I'll come back for one more year with Aaron Rodgers, and let's make one last push, one last run at winning a Super Bowl next season. Aaron Rodgers, first of all, at one point, you were the highest paid quarterback in football. 2018, they signed you to that big extension. Okay, you deserved every penny. There's no question about it. The legacy, how you will be viewed amongst the greats, this doesn't help you in the slightest. Helps your bank account, clearly. But Aaron Rodgers is fine financially. Okay, I don't know what he's going to do whenever he retires, and like, what is he going to do post-career? Who knows? Okay, you've seen so many athletes retire these days, and they're just succeeding big time in their sort of mogul stage. But for Aaron Rodgers, it's like, do you really want to win a championship? Because in the last 10 years, the most cap space that's been taken up by a Super Bowl winning quarterback on a team was Tom Brady a couple of years ago with Tampa Bay. He took up 12.5% of the cap. Aaron Rodgers, with this, if he really does want $50 million a year, which again would shatter Mahomes' record in terms of average salary per year. Listen, I haven't done the math, but that's going to take up more than 12.5%. And so here's my question about the Packers. Is this the reason that you did clear up so much cap space, or you have cleared up so much cap space with Kenny Clark and with Aaron Jones? Maybe, but man, it's like we saw how this played out last year. Your roster's good. There's no question about it. Offensive line is outstanding. The defensive front, at least against the 49ers, did a great job. Hey, good news for Green Bay. Jair Alexander, one of the 3 or 4 best corners of football, he was out most of last year. Okay, he's going to come back. Aaron Jones can still play. And look, if Aaron Rodgers comes back, Davante Adams is going to come back on a 1-year deal. Maybe he'll force a trade, who knows, but he'll come back. Okay, you've got the roster to compete, certainly in the NFC. If Green Bay was in the AFC, their goose is cooked. They're not competing for Super Bowls. But as I said in yesterday's show, and I've said since the offseason began, to me, there's like 2, and I'll slide Green Bay into that, third slide of teams that I think in the NFC that I think I can actually see winning the Super Bowl. Rams, obviously, they are the defending champs after all. 49ers, going to talk about the Trey Lance situation in just a second. You're not going to want to miss it. And Green Bay. Everybody, Tampa Bay's kind of on the fringe. I got to see what they do at the quarterback position. If they were to get a Russell Wilson, which I've said recently, I don't think that's going to happen. If they somehow made the Deshaun Watson thing happen, there's a lot of moving pieces. If they get Carson Wentz, they're not contending for Super Bowls. Okay, I already saw Carson Wentz with a perfect roster, and they couldn't even make the playoffs. He's not going to do that in Tampa. He'll probably win the division. He may choke that away too, but who knows? But you're not competing for Super Bowls. Green Bay, the door has never been more open. Ever. Aaron Rodgers, the door has never been more open for you in the NFC to compete. Because, yes, you've had the number one seed the last 2 years. And, of course, 2020, lost in the title game to Tampa. And then last year, went, as I said you would, one and done in a loss to San Francisco. But in all likelihood, you're probably going to be the number one seed again. Because San Francisco and the Rams, and add in Arizona as well, they're just going to be beating up on each other all season. Rams are going to have a first-place schedule, obviously, because they won the division. Green Bay's playing Minnesota, Detroit, and Chicago. They'll be fine. They'll get the number one seed again if this same team comes back. But couldn't you make a trade here and there? Because this is the most aggressive I've ever seen the Packers. I mean, the last few years, they've gone after guys in free agency, and they made trades. It's like, man, this is very off-brand for Green Bay. Aaron's got to look himself in the mirror and say, I've made my money. I mean, I have, and I'm going to continue to make money. I'm Aaron Rodgers, for crying out loud. Devontae Adams is coming back if I'm coming back. Got the offensive line. The defense is good, not great, but hey, good enough to win the division. Why not? Take a little less. Freeze up the cap. Maybe you can sign some key players. Maybe bolster up that defense a little bit. The linebacking core isn't great. Maybe get a linebacker. Maybe get a true number 2 receiver. Odell wanted to go to Green Bay. Maybe get a true number 2 wide receiver. And maybe you could take off. But the fact that this is coming up, it's concerning. As for everybody else in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes, I've heard Indianapolis now being thrown out there, and you obviously got teams like the Broncos. It's sort of been the number one team everybody's talked about. I think some people even floated Tampa Bay, which I don't know why the Buccaneers would do that. I'm sorry, I don't know why the Packers would do that. But with Aaron and these other teams, I'm sorry, Denver's desperate for a quarterback. They're not that desperate. Okay, they're not going to pay $50 million, wreck the roster for a guy who's probably going to retire next year if he even plays this year. Like, Aaron Rodgers is a year-to-year guy. I mean, he said that himself. He said last offseason he was 50-50 on retirement. Like, they're not going to give $50 million is given to young superstar quarterbacks. Guys such as Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Dak. Aaron Rodgers ain't that dude at this stage in his career. He's great. But in the postseason, we know what he is. James Harden with a ring. That's what he is. It's what he's always been. At least since that one long ago Super Bowl. My man Cooper Constantine is in the comments. He says, hey, man, what's up? What is up, Cooper? All the way from the land down under Australia. Cooper's a big Cowboys fan. Again, I don't know why other teams would do it. Because for Denver, you could say, look, yes, we have the roster now. Let's just try and go after Russell Wilson, okay? Russell's 32, 33, somewhere in that range. Russell's talked about over and over. He wants to play till he's 40. He wants to play beyond 40. And with the fact that he takes unbelievable care of his body, with the fact that we know what the rules are in terms of how you can and can't hit quarterbacks, Russell can absolutely play till he's 40. That's who I'd go after if I were Denver. Because you're going to have to give up some assets to go get a superstar quarterback. I mean, the free agent market is thin, man. We're talking Teddy Bridgewater and Ryan Fitzpatrick. It is thin. Like, that's not going to get it done. But I'm just really interested to see how this plays out. Like, if this report is true, really interested to see how this plays out. Because if the Packers give it to him, that will tell me, yeah, Aaron really doesn't. Because then at that point, is money the only motivation? Because look, $50 million, it's hard to say no to that, obviously. But for Aaron, I've made my money. At least in the NFL, he's going to continue to make money in his post-career, whatever that may be. He hosted Jeopardy briefly last offseason. Okay, he's got other endeavors that he's going to pursue. He's a part owner of the Milwaukee Bucks. And if I'm not mistaken, the Milwaukee Brewers. So he's all in on Wisconsin sports. And it's going to be great for him personally in terms of his business. But Green Bay may pay it. Actually, to keep him there. I don't think they really have a choice. But if they do, Devontae Adams is out of there. He's gone. They don't have the cap space to pay him. But I just think this is really interesting in terms of how this ties in. Does this mean that the Packers, the money that they've cleared out to free up some salary cap space, is it for this? To sign Aaron to the $50 million deal? That's really interesting, man. I'm telling you, again, who knows if this report is true? It is from a connected source, but we'll have to see how it plays out. Because I think there's a lot of different avenues that this could go. Because if this signed, nobody's trading for Aaron Rodgers. They're not going to trade. Great as he is, still a top 5 quarterback in the game without a question. But a team is not going to trade for him if we know he's not committed on a long-term basis to playing football. This is a year-to-year thing with him. Same like it was like kind of with Brett Favre for a while, and Ben Roethlisberger at the end of his career. I mean, Ben was a disaster at the end of his career. I mean, he was a shell of himself. Like really after the elbow surgery, Ben was never the same. But Aaron did just win a second straight MVP. He can still play clearly, but I don't know. This is weird. But when is this decision going to come? The report said soon. Aaron Rodgers soon. Who knows? Who knows? He's got a lot of different definitions for a lot of different things. So I'm not even going to try and guess. But moving on to a little voice crack there. My bad. Moving on to a team that Aaron Rodgers grew up rooting for in his childhood. It was the same team that Tom Brady also grew up rooting for in his childhood. Both are Bay Area kids, meaning they were San Francisco 49ers fans, and they've got their own little dilemma. So they've made it clear. Jimmy Garoppolo himself has made it clear. He's going to be on a different team next year. And then now, out of nowhere, the reports hold on. Cooper Constantine's got a comment about the whole Aaron Rodgers drama. He says Denver needs to have a good draft this year, and they were to get Russ too. That would be a great pickup. I still think they're a long way from being a good playoff team, though. No, I think, honestly, Cooper, I think if they get Russell, would I go so far to pick them to win the division? I don't know. I mean, here's the thing about Denver. They'll play a fourth place schedule because they had the worst record in their division again. They'll play a fourth place schedule. I mean, this is a roster that can go to a Super Bowl. Obviously, now Melvin Gordon's a free agent. Did they bring him back? But you got a really good offensive line. Your defense, I mean, that's Denver's brand, is great defense. They traded Von Miller, and we saw what he did with the Rams, but their defense was still great. Patrick Surtain was amazing. He was what I thought he'd be coming out of the draft out of Alabama. I wanted my Cowboys to take him. And then Denver swooped right under and took Pat Surtain one pick before Dallas. But and again, I think Pat Surtain's going to be a great player, but I'm glad they took him because we ended up getting the young lion, the lion backer, Micah Parsons. But Denver's a great roster. And I really like their hiring of Nathaniel Hackett to be their new head coach. They literally are a quarterback away. Like, I think their roster is better than Pittsburgh's. Their receivers are absolutely better than Pittsburgh's. And Pittsburgh has, they got, Juju's a free agent, but you've got guys like Deontay Johnson and I mean, they've got some playmakers. Freiermuth, a good tight end in Pittsburgh. Denver's got Noah Fant and guys like Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton. They got some dudes on that team. Again, I've heard some people even compare it to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pre-Brady. Like, really good roster. They just needed a quarterback to take them over the top. And that's exactly what Tom Brady did. And I think that's what Russell is capable of doing. Should a trade to Denver happen. But we'll see. Let me think off the top of my head. Yeah, actually, the Seattle Seahawks and the Broncos actually will play this year. And I think it'll be in Seattle. What an interesting dynamic that would be. Russell gets traded to Denver and comes back to Seattle. He'll get a huge ovation, I would think. Seattle's got a great fan base, but that would be very, very, very interesting should that come through. Back to San Francisco, though. So you got, obviously, the Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo thing, and now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, out of left field, I mean, all playoffs long, Jimmy Garoppolo's going to get traded. This could be his last game as a 49er. And then he didn't beat Dallas. The 49ers beat Dallas. Jimmy G didn't have a dang thing to do with that. And then a week later, this could be his last game. And the 49ers upset the Packers. And then the Rams could be his last game as a 49er. And of course, they lost. He threw the game-ending interception. But now out of left field, we're not sure if Trey Lance is ready. We're not sure. Joe Montana, Booger McFarland, we're not real sure. Is Trey Lance ready to go? The Niners are doing the exact same thing that they did just 10 months ago. They fooled the whole media. They fooled all fans around the NFL world. Remember 10 months ago? They trade all those picks to go up to the third pick in the draft to go get a quarterback, presumably. You don't trade all those picks to go up to 3 and take a linebacker. With all due respect to linebackers, that's not what the Niners' objective was. Everybody in their mama knew Trevor Lawrence was going 1 to Jacksonville. Zach Wilson was going 2 to the Jets. And for some reason, I remember talking about this in the show. I don't know why Justin Fields' draft stock just plummeted. I didn't get it. But Justin Fields apparently was out of the mix. So it came down to 2. Is it going to be Trey Lance? Is it going to be Mac Jones? And all the reporters, and again, I'm not bashing the reporters, okay? San Francisco told the reporters, and they just put out the message. But every outlet, Mac Jones is number 1 on the radar of San Francisco. It's Mac Jones, Mac Jones, Mac Jones. And listen, you can go look at the tape. I came out in the show and said, for such a smart organization, John Lynch has done an outstanding job as the general manager. Kyle Shanahan, y'all know what I think of him. I think he's a brilliant offensive mind. The roster that they have and the scouts and how they've drafted, and they want to go with Mac Jones? He's Jimmy G 2.0. Seriously. Immobile, average arm. Now, to Mac's credit, he makes less mistakes than Jimmy, but it's the same guy. You are drafting Jimmy G 2.0. I'm like, this Trey Lance kid at North Dakota State, here's what he needs. Reps. He's got the talent. He can move around great. He's got the arm, accuracy, leadership, maturity. He's got everything. Not saying Mac Jones isn't mature or has leadership. But Trey Lance, in terms of tangibles, blows Mac Jones out of the water. It's not even close. And so when this was coming up, I'm like, there is no way they're going to take Mac Jones. And I remember I was on a draft show. My man Ryan Flowers, shout out to him, and a lot of other great guests. And I remember watching on the TV. My feed was ahead of everybody else's. And Roger Goodell said, with the 3rd overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Trey Lance. And I literally just like, Trey Lance, what? Like, it totally took me off guard. But I was like, great pick by San Francisco. All he needs is reps. He played one game because of the pandemic in his final year in college. He needs to get on the field. Like, that's his issue. He needs to be on the field, getting better. He's got the talent, no question about it. And under Kyle Shanahan's system, I mean, he could not be a better fit. If Jimmy G, an immobile quarterback, worked in Kyle Shanahan's run West Coast style offense, oh my gosh. I mean, Trey Lance is perfect for that. You saw what RG3 did. Heck, you even saw what Matt Ryan did. And Matt Ryan's not exactly known for his mobility. It's a perfect fit. Here's what they're doing. They're trying to raise Jimmy G's draft stock. I'm sorry, not draft stock, trade stock. They want as much as they can get for Jimmy Garoppolo. And I don't blame them. I mean, I don't blame them for doing this. They're playing chess. We're all playing checkers in how we're analyzing this. But just keep in mind, this is the same organization that fooled all of us into saying, oh my gosh, they're actually going to take Mac Jones with the 3rd overall pick. No, there's no way they're going to do this. And then they take Trey Lance. It's like, okay, they were just screwing with us. They were just screwing with us. So no team was going to slide in there. No. So I will say this. Props to the Niners. They're playing chess. Everybody else is playing checkers because Trey Lance, I'm telling y'all. Do I think he has the most talent of any quarterback in this draft? Absolutely not. That's Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. By the way, I like the Jags hire of Doug Peterson. I think Jacksonville's not going to be a playoff team by any stretch, but I mean, that's a great coach to develop Trevor Lawrence. Raw talent, Trevor Lawrence is number 1. But as far as I said this on the show a year ago, who do I think among the 5 first-round quarterbacks is going to have the best career? Trey Lance. Elite coaching, elite general manager, elite roster. Tough division, yes, but you'll take that with the surroundings you have. I mean, it is nothing but stability and structure. So, again, I really do think they're just trying to boost and Jimmy G's trade value and see what they can get for him. I think maybe they'll fool somebody into trading a first round pick. If not, it'll be a second rounder. Because look, they know what Jimmy G is and they know what he isn't. Jimmy G once won a playoff game against the Green Bay Packers in the NFC title game. He threw 9 passes. Now, part of that was just because San Francisco just ran it down Green Bay's throat. I mean, it was they ran for like almost 300 yards. It was insane. Part of that was, gosh, we really don't want Jimmy G to screw this up. Like, we're rolling right now. Like, don't throw an interception. Like, think about that playoff game against Dallas. Like, San Francisco's got it. They're in control. They're up 13 points with 8 minutes to go. They're running the ball. They're just going to bleed the clock out. And Jimmy G rolls out and throws a pick, and Dallas gets right back in the game. Like, I remember watching the game, me being a Dak fan. I'm watching the game, and they're showing all the Cowboys fans around the stadium, and they're like slumping in their seats. I'm like, hang on, Jimmy G's going to screw it up. That's what he does. He's going to throw a terrible interception. He does it every game. And it's funny. He literally threw not an interception, a terrible interception in all 3 playoff games for the 49ers. But when it happened, I'm like, there you go. Told you he's going to give you a shot. They got to the title game this year and lost to the Rams. They got there in spite of Jimmy G. The 2 playoff wins, he didn't throw a touchdown. Think about that. He didn't throw a touchdown pass. He had 2 interceptions. He was not good. They know there's a ceiling. They see LA. They almost beat LA with the inferior quarterback, the far inferior quarterback. Look, Jimmy G's a starter, but Matt Stafford's a top 10 guy. So if you've got comparable rosters, great coaching, and let's be real, SoFi Stadium isn't exactly a huge home field advantage for the Rams. Beautiful as it is, it ain't no home field advantage for the Rams, and darn sure ain't that for the Chargers. But the point of the matter is, if the rosters are fairly identical, can go toe-to-toe with one another, the quarterbacks are going to decide it. Heck, a lot of times the inferior team that has the better quarterback, a lot of times we see those teams win. That's the reality of it. It's a quarterback's league. And the Niners know that. Kyle Shanahan especially knows that. I mean, look, I like Matt Ryan a lot. He's had a great career. I think he's going to continue to be really good for Atlanta. Under Kyle Shanahan, who was the offensive coordinator in 2016, Matt Ryan won the most valuable player. He beat Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott for most valuable player. Huh? Matt Ryan, like Matt Ryan, but MVP? Yeah, he did that. Got to the Super Bowl, had a 28-3 lead. Like, they got that far with Matt Ryan because Kyle Shanahan is that brilliant of a coach. Now, we know what happened after 28-3. That's a whole nother story. But he did get Matt Ryan there. Trey Lance, he needs reps. I do believe the reports that he needs some time in the field. Like, this needs to be like he needs to throw every day, work with his teammates and coaches and everything. Come September, I guarantee it. I am 1,000% confidence. I have no doubts whatsoever. Trey Lance, first game for the Niners, he will be the starting quarterback. There is no question about it. And give it, I'd say, okay, so today's February 25th. A month from now, March 25th, Jimmy Garoppolo will not be a 49er. I'm going to write it down so that I can hold myself accountable to this, and so y'all can all be accountable to this. Jimmy G will not be a 49er by March 25th. There we go. I mean, at the end of the day, they know. San Francisco's a smart organization. They know. We've got everything we need. I mean, they've got like a step below a perfect roster. You can't have a perfect roster in the NFL because it's a hard cap league. There's only so much money you can spend. But Elijah Mitchell had a great rookie season at running back. He's the second best rookie running back to Najee Harris. Offensive line is outstanding. Our left tackle is literally the best player at his position in the league. We've got George Kittle, who's a top 2 tight end to me. I think George Kittle's second to only to Travis Kelce. You got guys like Brandon Ayuk, great slot receiver. Juwan Jennings is kind of a do-it-all type of player. Well, he's not do-it-all. He's more of a possession receiver. Then you got this guy, Deebo Samuel, he's the do-it-all player. He can throw touchdowns. He can run touchdowns. He can catch touchdowns. He can do it all. And then defensively, the defensive line is probably the best in the league. It's either that or the Rams. Nick Bosa, Armstead. I mean, they got some ballers up front. You got Fred Warner, who's arguably the best player at his position. The 49ers' only weakness is their secondary. Their secondary isn't great. Their secondary, you could argue, along with Jimmy G, cost them the game against the Rams in the playoffs and cost them a trip to the Super Bowl because Matt Stafford just threw a bomb right to that safety Tart. I mean, right in his grasp, and he just dropped it. I mean, it should have been an easy interception. He might as well have called fair catch on that. So that's the weakness of the Niners. They're a quarterback away, and I think that quarterback's in their building, and his name is Trey Lance. He is going to be great. And I think they're just blowing smoke with these reports, no question. To the NBA now. The last three topics are NBA topics. Again, we appreciate you stopping by. James Harden's going to make his debut tonight. Actually, he's going to make his debut with the Sixers in about an hour and a half. They're playing the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight at 8 Eastern, 7 Central Time in Minnesota. Again, Minnesota got a big win last night over Memphis. Listen, they're playing good basketball. D'Angelo Russell and Kat, who just won the 3-point contest, Anthony Edwards, like they got some good going on in Minnesota. But they're playing the 76ers tonight. James Harden's going to make his debut. I said on this show a few weeks ago when the trade went down that the 76ers won this trade. They got the better player. I know Seth Curry's balling out in Brooklyn. Got Andre Drummond. But at the end of the day, when the money's on the line, Kevin Durant's going to be the guy to take those big shots. If Kyrie Irving's available, he's going to be the guy to take those big shots second to KD. Yeah, Seth Curry will get some open looks, but you're not going to be relying on Seth Curry to win you playoff games. In Philly, obviously going to be relying on your best player, Joel Embiid, to win those games with James Harden as his number 2. But James Harden, look, I've said in the show, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer if he retired tomorrow. Okay? He's an MVP, multi-time scoring champion, one of the greatest scorers we've ever seen. That step back is unguardable. It is like in the top 5 of unstoppable basketball moves. Number 1's obviously Kareem's skyhook, and we can rank him going from there. Jordan's fadeaway and everything in between. But James Harden's step back 3 is in the top 5. He's a great player. Sorry, Philadelphia fans. I'm not really that sorry because I strongly dislike Philadelphia sports teams and their fans drive me nuts. But you're going to have the same outcome as Houston did for nearly a decade and as the Nets did last year. Will Embiid stay healthy? I'm going to knock on wood. Hopefully he does. Because since his career started, this is his 9th year in the NBA, he has not stayed healthy one time. John Jones got a question for a prediction on my end. He says, how many points Harden dropped tonight? He says 22, 6, and 7 is my stat line. I like that. Well, he hasn't played basketball in basically a month, so he's probably going to be maybe not on like a minutes restriction, but they're not going to put him in too many positions to wear down physically. They're going to try and ease him into this new system under Doc Rivers and teaming up with Embiid. I would say Harden goes for, I'll say 3 points less than you. I'll say he goes for 19, but I think he's a distributor tonight. I'll say he goes 19, 8, and 5. 19, 8, and 5 for James Harden. I think he's a point guard. He's designated as a shooting guard. James is not a shooting guard. I remember when he was in Brooklyn, I said, James is the point guard. Kyrie's the shooting guard, not the other way around. They're designated at the opposite position of what they really are. But I guess in today's era of positionless basketball, maybe we need to stop putting specific labels and positions on these guys. Because, James has led the league in assists twice. Has Kyrie ever averaged 5 assists? He's a scorer. James is as well, and he's a distributor. And I think at this stage in his career where he's not as proficient a scorer, he's going to have to play the role of distributor more in his career, and that's what's probably going to extend it. But I'll say 19 points, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds. The stat line for James Harden. Also, by the way, he changed his number. Changed from number 13, his trademark number 13. He changed to number 1. So that's interesting as well. But for Philadelphia, I'm sorry. Listen, it's not going to be the same dilemma as Ben Simmons, where he literally refuses to shoot in the fourth quarter. It doesn't matter if he's wide open. He will. I mean, guys, we remember that game 7 against Atlanta. Ben Simmons has got a wide open dunk. He's 6'11" with a 7-foot wingspan. He can go up easy. I mean, it'd be the easiest points of Ben Simmons' playoff life. Against Trey. And by the way, the only guy who's going to contest a shot was little 6'1" Trey Young. I mean, he wasn't going to do nothing. Worst thing he was going to do was foul him. Maybe Ben Simmons had a shot at a 3-point play. But Ben Simmons, wide open dunk. And pass it up to Matisse Thybulle, who went 1 for 2 from the free throw line. And as Joel Embiid said after the game, that was the turning point. I think we all kind of thought wow, Ben Simmons just literally just gave up 2 points. He was afraid to shoot. And so now James Harden isn't going to be afraid to shoot, but he's going to flame out. May I go through the list again of his playoff failures? Because they are extensive. 2015 with the Houston Rockets. I'm not crushing the Rockets for not winning that series over the Warriors that year, because the Warriors were the best team in basketball. They won 67 games. And they went on to win the championship over a beat-up Cleveland team. But down 3-1 in Game 5 at Oracle Arena, James Harden broke the NBA playoff record for turnovers. 15. I mean, Golden State, I remember that game. Golden State didn't even play that well. James Harden gave them, that's 15 opportunities the Rockets could have had to take a shot or get to the free throw line. 15 times he turned it over, whether it was offensive fouls, bad passes, whatever it was. Losing the ball, he was careless, and it was not a good look for James. 2 years later, the Rockets are down 3-2, but Game 6 is on their home floor. That in and of itself, you got to win that game. MVP, James finished second to Russell Westbrook in MVP. I argued James should have won it that year. I thought James was the MVP in 2017. Game 6 on your home floor. The opponent, the San Antonio Spurs, going to talk about Gregg Popovich to finish the show. San Antonio's your opponent. They're missing their starting point guard, Tony Parker. They're missing their best player, Kawhi Leonard, both due to injury. And they beat you by 39 points. I mean, I don't think James even scored 15 points. He was awful. He was 2 for 11 from the field. Just a flat-out disaster. A year later, up 3-2 on the Warriors. You say, well, come on. Bryson, they're playing the Warriors. It's Steph and Clay and Draymond and KD and company. And Steve Kerr coach. Are you the MVP? Because Chris Paul was out. Are you the MVP? They lose Game 6. They had a 17-point lead in Game 6. They ended up losing by, I believe, 25. 42-point turnaround. In Game 7, though, I'm not going to crush James for losing Game 6, but Game 7, 15-point lead. And James was part of a Rockets team that missed 27 straight three-point shots. And James, he scored over 30, but it took him 31 shots to get there, if I remember correctly. He collapsed in the fourth quarter when Golden State was cutting and making passes and playing great defense. James was nowhere to be found. A year later, just like against San Antonio, 2019, they're playing the Warriors again, but this time Kevin Durant is gone for the rest of the series. They lose Game 5 after James plays awful in the fourth quarter. He kind of pulled Ben Simmons that game. He just refused to shoot. Game 6 on his home floor. They lose to the Warriors in a game in which Steph Curry did not score a point in the first half. They lost that game. And then 2 years later against Milwaukee, James was just awful against the Bucks. Yes, he hurt his hamstring early in Game 1. My argument is, did it hamper him? Of course, it's a hamstring. That's a tough injury to come back from. I remember playing Game 6. I'm not going to go into detail, but I remember watching playing Game 6. I'm like, oh yeah, James is really limited right now. But he always does this. How am I supposed to? Why would I assume that if he never hurts the hamstring that he plays well? I can't do that. So if Embiid is hurt, or if Embiid maybe isn't having the greatest night offensively, this is what they traded for James, because Ben Simmons couldn't do this. Ben Simmons couldn't go on these offensive explosions. James, while he's having a little bit of a down year this year, he still is capable of doing that. We know that. He's had some triple doubles this year. I mean, he's one of the greatest regular season players, or at least scorers of all time. But get to April, May, he can't get you to June. That's sort of my motto for James Harden. I mean, around January, February, he's balling out. Again, I think the fit with Embiid is just perfect. I think the Simmons and Embiid fit was always kind of clunky, but you have a scoring, distributing guard who's great out the dribble. This is a great fit for Joel Embiid. So that's sort of my thoughts on it, but I don't get why it happened. All right, we got a little bit of breaking news. I can't say I'm that shocked by this, but some breaking news. Adam Schefter just tweeted, Sean McVay just told ESPN today that he is not pursuing any television opportunities and that he's committed to helping the Rams defend their Super Bowl title. Again, I'm not surprised by this. Sort of the confirmation that I got was Sean McVay's fiance put on social media. It was a picture of Sean McVay, and he was like smiling, giving a thumbs up. I don't know if he had any alcoholic beverage in his hand, and like the caption said, he's not retiring. It's like, well, I mean, she is kind of his fiance. I think she would know. I think they've had these conversations, and the rumors were, especially since Troy Aikman was leaving to go to ESPN from Fox, that Sean McVay would get some huge offers. Like I think they said up to $15 million a year to be a television analyst. But and I think that's in Sean's future. But Tony Romo, I think, gets paid like $17 million. So that's, not that far less from Tony, who's sort of now the gold standard of color analysts during games. So, but that doesn't surprise me at all. I figured he'd come back to the Rams. I felt like his return was more likely than that of Aaron Donald, which I think Aaron Donald, the way he was talking, which it was at the parade, so who knows? He certainly he certainly had some alcohol in his system, so he's going to wait and make his decision. But I think Aaron Donald's also going to come back. Certainly, if they bring back the roster, that was kind of what he implied to TMZ. Which take that for what you will. But let's move on now to Giannis, because I've heard this discussion the last few days. And I've talked about Giannis like the last 3 weeks after barely talking about it this season, because I'm just so sick of the disrespect. He's such a great player. Like, I feel like we're not giving him enough credit for how great he is. And Milwaukee is a team that I picked. I mean, they are the defending champs after all. They are a team that I picked to get back to the finals in 2022. I said they'd play my Warriors and they'd lose. I believe I had that series going 7. If I'm not mistaken, I think I had it going 6 or 7. I think it was 7. But I think very highly of Milwaukee. I think the East is anybody's game. I think you maybe could say Chicago, and I'm going to talk about DeMar in just a second with the whole Popovich thing. But with Giannis, I thought about this today, and I looked it up. I did some research, and if Giannis wins a title this year and a Finals MVP, which if the Bucks win the title, I mean, I don't know who else other than Giannis would win Finals MVP, because he'll have to play his best in order for them to win. No disrespect to Chris Middleton, who balled out in the finals last year, and Drew Holiday, who's a defensive, just puts the clamps on your best guard, and the deep roster that they have. Giannis has to be his best in order for them to win. And certainly we saw what he did last year, that 50-point game in Game 6, averaging 35 and 14 for the duration of the finals. He was out of this world. But if he wins a championship, wins a Finals MVP, he'll join a list of players that have won multiple MVPs, multiple Finals MVPs, and a Defensive Player of the Year. You know who that list is? Michael Jordan. That's it. Michael Jordan. So I think what this would do, I'm dead serious about this. Giannis wins a championship. Giannis wins the Finals MVP. Giannis is the top 15 player of all time. Do we realize how incredible that is, or that would be if they pull that off this year? Multiple MVPs, multiple finals MVPs, and a defensive player of the year. Now, for the record, LeBron should be on this list because he was robbed of defensive player of the year back in 2013, I think it was. Marc Gasol got it, which Marc Gasol wasn't even first team all defense, which is just mind-boggling. I don't get it. But LeBron should be on this list, but that's beside the point. So he'll have, as you know, he'll be one short championship-wise to Dr. J, right? If he wins, he'll be one championship shy of Steph Curry. He'll tie Kevin Durant in championships, which to me, I'm sorry. If Giannis wins a championship this year and wins a finals MVP, he passes Kevin Durant in the greatest of all time list. Kevin Durant, 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs. Not going to take any credit away from that. And I, as a Warriors fan, loved every second of it. But Kevin Durant went to Golden State, a move that I didn't bash him for at all. That's just not just the fact I'm a Warriors fan. Just step back. I'm like, okay, he wants to go win championships. He doesn't want to be on the list of players, the greatest players of all time who never put a ring on their finger. I get that. But he joined a team that was already great, a team that already won a championship, and then the following season, all they did was win 73 games and come within a minute of winning their second straight title. Giannis built this in Milwaukee. This is a team, Milwaukee, that was irrelevant when Giannis got there for the first few years he was there. And then they took up a playoffs in a row, and then they were the number 1 seed and lost to Toronto. And then they were the number 1 seed again, and they lost at Miami. And then yesterday, he just said, I've had enough of this. Here I come. And he was lights out all playoffs long. And he was at his best when his best was required in the NBA Finals. So he'll have as many championships as KD and as many finals MVPs. He'll have more regular season MVPs than Kevin Durant. And he's already got something that Kevin Durant has never gotten, a defensive player of the year. And I think KD's in the top 15. So put Giannis past KD. That would put him in the top 15. Absolutely. I mean, and listen, I'd love to know y'all's thoughts in the comments, but when you look at the resume, what has it got, 27, 28? I mean, it's ridiculous. And winning in Milwaukee, now Milwaukee's a well-run organization, but he built that. Okay, Mike Budenholzer is not a great head coach. He's a champion. Can't take that away from him. Can't take that ring off his finger. But he's not on the level of a Monty Williams, a Steve Kerr. Okay, like he's not an Eric Spoelstra. Eric Spoelstra just flat out coached Mike Budenholzer a couple of years ago in the playoffs. It was abysmal for Milwaukee. But this is, to me, Giannis wins this year. And if they win the title, he's winning finals MVP. Now, John disagrees. He says not yet. He's not saying no. He's saying not yet. I respect that. But Greek is going to finish his career in the top 10 of all times if he keeps it up. I mean, when you look at, now, by the way, he's also got a most improved player on his resume from, I think, 2017. But the 2018-19 season, he wins the MVP. The 2019-2020 season, he wins another MVP and wins Defensive Player of the Year. Last season, he wins a finals MVP, wins a title. Like this, what he's doing, where his career is projecting at this point, like he's like just now coming into his prime. It's scary, man. It's scary what he can do on the basketball court. And I don't have any questions about Milwaukee. Great defensively. They got great length. They can get any shot they want offensively. If it's not Giannis, you got Middleton who can get his own shot. Drew Holiday, who occasionally can get his. Certainly, driving down the lane, occasionally can knock down the three. Do they get Brook Lopez back? Obviously, guys like Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis has been excellent for them this season. I don't see anybody being Milwaukee. Brooklyn's bad defensively. Ben Simmons is going to help them there, but not by himself. And so, I'm telling you, they're coming out the East. I have no questions about that. Miami is the only team that gives me cause for pause. I think Miami is the only team that can beat Milwaukee in a 7-game series. Because A, we saw them do it 2 years ago. And B, look, they got great length. Obviously, we're talking about Bam and Jimmy Butler. Tyler Hero is a scoring machine off the bench. And PJ Tucker is just a pain in the you-know-what. Milwaukee can tell you that firsthand. He played for them and won a championship with them last year. And Eric Spoelstra is a better coach than Mike Budenholzer. So Miami's the only team I think that could beat Milwaukee. Kevin Durant alone is not beating the Bucks. We saw that last year. So that's my argument. But yeah, I mean, I think if he wins this year, he's top 15. If he's not yet, he's at the very least pushing it. Like he's like 16, 17. But he's been outstanding. Moving on now, final topic of the day. Again, appreciate everybody stopping by. Gregg Popovich. I don't know how long it's been since I've done a Gregg Popovich topic. But the San Antonio Spurs right now in the standings, look, nobody expected them to really do much this year. They had, to their credit, they had an all-star, DeJounte Murray, well-deserved, got in the all-star game, did some good things in the game. But right now, San Antonio's sitting at the 11th seed, the 11th best record in the West. They're a game and a half back of the play-in tournament. So their playoff dreams are not crushed whatsoever. They'll have a shot to get in the play-in, and most likely sitting where they're sitting at, they'll have to win 2 straight games, get two straight elimination games in order to get in the tournament, in order to get into a best-of-7 series. But with the San Antonio Spurs, I'm not here to say, like, Gregg Popovich isn't a Hall of Fame coach. I'm not here to say that he's, not even a great coach. But it's kind of like Bill Belichick. Don't put Gregg Popovich in the greatest coach of all time conversation. Please don't do that. First of all, it's Phil Jackson. It's Phil. And secondly, Gregg Popovich is there's a couple things here. So, first of all, Demar Derozan last night was sensational. He has been the best free agent pickup without a question from last offseason. The fact that the Lakers didn't sign him, and I don't think the Spurs even wanted him back. And I mean, you look at DeMar this season. I'm trying to pull up his numbers. I mean, he's having an unbelievable season. John says Pop is number 1 and Phil Jackson's number 2. Let me pull up DeMar's stats real quick. First of all, last night he scored 37, went 15 for 21 for the field, and hit the game-winning shot. So he was clutch once again. But the guy's averaging 28 points a game, which is 4th in basketball. Like, DeMar's having a great year, and San Antonio didn't want him. And so, for the San Antonio Spurs, what is concerning to me? What is Gregg Popovich without Tim Duncan? What is he? I'm not saying you got to win a championship, but when you look at the Spurs, I'm not saying Popovich isn't a great coach, but since Duncan retired, they won 61 games the following year. Okay? They would not have gotten swept by the Warriors had Kawhi Leonard been healthy for that series, if Zaza hadn't stuck his foot under Kawhi's foot. But after that, they won 47 games. Then they won 48 games. Then they won 32 games. Last year, 33 games. So, my thing with Coach Pop, and also something else, the game has evolved. I mean, this is obvious to anybody that watches basketball, and you can thank Steph Curry for this. It's a 3-point shooters league. A 7-foot center just won the 3-point contest, Karl Anthony Towns. And San Antonio's at the bottom of the league in shooting threes. They let Patty Mills go. Okay, like their best shooters are gone. So for today's NBA, the Spurs are not built to win at all. Like DeJounte Murray isn't really a shooter, but I don't necessarily need my best player to be a shooter. That's okay, right? You look at teams like the Suns. Chris Paul's a good shooter. I don't think he's just their best player. He's their most valuable player, no question. John just said Pop is one with less, but I look at these Spurs rosters, like even a couple of years ago, they had DeMar DeRozan. They had, obviously, we talk about Patty Mills. They did have DeJounte Murray. They had LaMarcus Aldridge, who had just been an all-star the year before. They had Jakob Poeltl, who's a solid big man. I mean, now they weren't a championship roster by any stretch, but could you win a playoff series? Just one. Like, that's a solid NBA roster. I mean, the Western Conference was kind of thin in 2019. Like, it was Golden State, Houston was great, and then it was you had your Denvers and your Portlands sprinkled in there. Oklahoma City was in it. That was the last Westbrook year, and they got bounced in 5 games by Portland. Try to remember who else. Utah. Like, the West was kind of thin outside of Golden State and Houston in 2019. you got to win one playoff series. You didn't play Golden State. You didn't play Houston in the first round. Like, you got to win that series over Denver. They had a 2-1 lead with a game 4 at home and ended up losing. So you need a superstar to win finals. No question about it. But my argument is for Gregg Popovich. Has he evolved? Just like Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick has not evolved to today's NFL. And the Patriots are a good team. Great defensively and highly limited at just about every position but running back offensively. Like next year, they'll win 9, 10 games, probably make the playoffs, and they'll get bounced again. Maybe not by 30, but they'll get bounced. The Spurs are fighting just to get in the top 10 seeds. You got the beat-up Clippers ahead of them. You got the Blazers with a bunch of kids. I saw the Blazers play last night against my Warriors. My Warriors smoked the Blazers. They're better, but I don't know if they're 37-point win better. You got teams like Minnesota, significantly above you. That's my argument, is San Antonio has not evolved to today's NBA. And does it crush Pop's legacy? I don't think it crushes it. Does it diminish it slightly? I mean, since 2014, he hasn't been back to the NBA Finals. Duncan retired. They won 60 games the following year. And outside of that, 2 first-round exits. And they haven't made the playoffs in the last 2 years. Most likely this year, 3. Even John can't disagree with that. He says definitely haven't evolved. Like Phoenix has. Obviously, Golden State doesn't have to evolve. They created this. Milwaukee can shoot the 3, and Miami can shoot the 3. Tyler Hero. You look down the list. Chicago, Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso, when healthy, he can knock down the 3. I think he shot 40% from 3 last year. You look down the list. Philadelphia can shoot the 3. Brooklyn obviously can shoot the 3. Boston. Look at the Western Conference. Utah definitely can shoot it from 3. The Timberwolves. That's the equalizer in today's league. The 3-point shot alone isn't going to win you a championship. You got to be great defensively. You got to have at least one superstar and be able to put together a team that fits, like Milwaukee has, like Phoenix has, like Golden State has. I'm not expecting any more championships out of San Antonio, but as Jim Morris said, playoffs? Could you get in the top 8? It's looking doubtful again for the 3rd straight year. So I think you see DeMar left San Antonio and he's having the best year of his career. Like, I was of the mindset that DeMar was done. I thought that when I saw that the Bulls had signed DeMar, I was like, man, that was a great pickup. It was a huge, obviously add that to Lonzo and Vucevic. They traded for Vucevic last year and Zach LaVine was already there. Like, I was like, okay, the Bulls are going to be, they're going to be a force this year. I thought DeMar would be a guy who'd average, 19, 20 points. He's averaging 28 a game, and he was a starter in the All-Star game and played really well in the All-Star game. I didn't see this coming. He's in year 13. He's been around a while. I thought his best years had been in Toronto. He leaves San Antonio and gets much better. Now, Billy Donovan's a really good head coach, and obviously the roster fits, but Chicago was supposed to be good. They were supposed to be like fighting for the number 1 seed good, and DeMar's the number 1 reason for that, and San Antonio with DeMar was like a 7 seed. In some cases, not even making the playoffs. So that's my issue. John says, problem is nobody wants to play for the Spurs. And obviously, the market, San Antonio is a great city. Obviously, the market isn't as big as in LA and Miami. Excuse me, even a Phoenix. Like, I've heard players talk glowingly, even when the Suns sucked. Players talked about how great of a city Phoenix is, and it's really laid back. But the case is kind of the same with San Antonio. And John, who's a diehard Bulls fan, he says, thanks for the Bulls love. Hey, listen, I give credit where credit's due. It's a well put together roster. I don't think this year that they are like, I can't this year in 2022, I can't see the Chicago Bulls in the NBA Finals. Next year, I think there's too many injuries. And when they've played the great teams, I'm sorry to throw out a Warriors example, but they got, just destroyed by the Warriors, the two games they played. The last game, Golden State won by like 40. Like, they can't be Golden State. Golden State got crushed by Milwaukee. Like, was it a few days? Or no, actually, Milwaukee had just crushed Golden State the night before. And then Golden State walked into Chicago, won by 40 on a back-to-back on the road on the East Coast for a West Coast team. So that was when I kind of knew, like, yeah, okay, the Bulls can win a playoff series, even depending on the matchup. They could absolutely get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I can't see them, getting the NBA Finals. And Johnson says, yeah, we got to get healthy and add another big man. Absolutely. And I think I like Vucevic. He's been an all-star. We know what he did in Orlando. But it's going to be tough going against the likes, if you match up the playoffs with a Bam Adebayo, with, obviously Giannis is going to be, he's not a center, but he's going to be spending a lot of time in the paint, as we know. When you're going against, even though they're young cats, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley in Cleveland. I would pick Chicago to beat Cleveland, but the big man matchup does concern me a little bit for the Bulls. You look down the list of the East, obviously Joel Embiid, who's right now, in my opinion, the MVP of the league. That is probably going to be what gets the Bulls beat, in my opinion. But you make a good point about the need for a legit, true big man down low. But it's a good Bulls roster. It is. And DeMar DeRozan's having, to me, if I had to vote for MVP today, I go Embiid, Giannis, and DeMar in third. He's having a phenomenal year. Again, I'm all about that V word, valuable, and boy, has DeMar been valuable to the Bulls. No question about it. He's been great. But with that said, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. Be sure to follow Carving It Up Live on Instagram at Carving It Up Podcast, on Twitter at Carving It Up Pod, and on Facebook you can search Bryson Carver, and the Carving Up logo should pull up there at any time. You should be able to see it there. But and also be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Helps the channel grow exponentially. So, and if you've been listening to Carving It Up on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Anchor, as well as wherever you listen to your podcasts, we appreciate that as well. So until next time, hope everybody's a great weekend. Continue to stay safe out there. God bless you all. Peace out. Friday. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.